This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Financially Fit Business. Get the business tool that turns your financial statements into impactful graphs that help you see your business trends to make sure that you're not headed for a cash flow, profitability, or productivity issue. Go to www.financiallyfitbusiness and get started today. Thank you for joining us. Here is how we will help your business and you. My father always told me that the smartest business people learn from the mistakes of others so that they don't make them. In this podcast, you'll get the opportunity to learn real-world, boots-on-the-ground leadership lessons from Keith Flores, a highly respected entrepreneur, HVAC industry leader, and founder-operator with over 30 years of experience in the trades and business world. Keith, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Thank you, Ruth, for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah. So you're going to make everybody into the business owners that my dad always said that, okay, we're going to learn from you today.
Well, it's funny because now it's been over 35 years. I got to change that. I mean, I've been doing this way too long, it seems like. And I've had a lot of success in the business, and I've also had a lot of failures in the business. So I'm more than happy to share.
Yeah, I think, and tell me if you see this too. I think I've learned, and I don't know whether you've learned, but I've learned more from my failures than my successes.
100%. 100%. I know, I'll just give you a quick rundown of kind of how I got into the trades. I started out, literally, I was 12, maybe 13 at the most. My brother-in-law had me ride my bicycle over to his house, and he was working for my family's business, and he asked me if I wanted to do some work. I went, did a side job with him on the weekend. He threw me underneath the house and had me rip out all the ductwork. I ripped out all the ductwork. He came back under. It was like 5 runs, 6 runs, and came under, showed me how to put it back together, wrapped it up. Told me come back over to his house the next day and he'd pay me. He reached into his freezer the next day and pulled out a wad of cash, flipped me out, $10, $20 bills, and said, "Here you go, buddy." And after that, I was hooked. I had $200, 12 years old. I was hooked. And so I came up through the ranks, from the bottom up, and, sold my first company by the time I was 30. Didn't know what a P&L was, so I'm sure they took, mass advantage of me because later on, over time, I understood what I could have got from my company back then. And then just kind of fast forward, I started learning what P&Ls were and understanding what my KPIs were, and got into another company and then sold that one, had a nice little exit, and did another one, sold that, had a nice little exit. And then I took on a business partner for the first time, and we pretty much did things on a handshake, and we grew the business. I grew the business. I won't say he did. I grew it with the team without him. And we got an offer for about $15 million, and he wanted to keep going, and I had a 2-year deal with him, and that was one of the toughest lessons I ever learned because
no kidding.
I ended up just walking away from it. I mean, $7.5 million I walked away from. So never do things on a handshake. Never trust anybody. It doesn't matter who they are in business. So you got to, have some paperwork drafted up. And that's one of the toughest lessons I've ever learned. And it's a lesson that I share with a lot of people. If I didn't have my wife, to support me, to push me and tell me, "You're miserable, leave. Who cares about the money? You'll do it again." I'd probably still be there pulling my hair out.
Miserable. Yeah. Life's too short. Life's way too short. So, learn from Keith, because I don't care whether it's your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your grandmother, have a partnership agreement. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's wild about it is I have lawyers. Now we just reduced one of them. So now we're down to about 6 law firms that I have on retainer. And I literally had the paperwork drafted up, and I just throughout the process, just we kept on shuffling it around. Finally, it came to a breaking point for me. He, didn't want to sign. And so I left, and a year later, the company crumbled, went out of business. So, moral of the story is, like, if somebody comes in to teach you how to run a business and teaches you, what to do and how to drive the revenue and so forth, you should pay attention to that person, because that person's been there, done it, and you can learn from their mistakes. You also can learn, the process and procedures, because he could have kept on running that business. It was very profitable, and it just crumbled, literally.
Well, he wasn't paying attention, or he didn't know how. One of the two. I mean, that's not the point here.
Yeah, he just didn't pay attention. He wasn't even around half the time. So, yeah. So, now I started another company 6 years ago, and I love it. It's a small, we call it a white glove service business. We specialize in mechanical, but we also do general contracting as well. And I enjoy it. It's one of those things that me and my wife have built, through a referral driven basis. We do not do any advertising whatsoever. Let me back up. I always make the mistake. I spend $500 a month to keep my Yelp up. So, but other than that, we have about 12 trucks in the field, and we service a 6-mile radius of my office. And with zero advertising, zero marketing, we literally branded ourselves really good, and we go 100% off of referrals.
Yeah, that's your marketing. Is your referral marketing? It's still marketing.
Yep.
Come on, you may not be doing it from a standpoint of putting an ad there, but when somebody talks to somebody about how good you were, that's marketing. It's like it's not promoted type marketing, but somebody is actually talking about you, and probably in your sleep.
Yes. It's brand. I call it branding. I love branding. I was, fortunate enough to work for some of the biggest companies out there. And one thing I really learned through all this was, brand yourself very well and hold yourself at the highest extreme. So for me, my guys, 6 years now, we're on our third set of trucks. We buy a new truck. We don't lease them. We buy them through Enterprise Fleet. And we buy them, and we cycle them out every 2 years. We just know that the image is everything, especially where we're located, but that's everywhere, And my guys are not allowed to smoke. They're not allowed to chew, They shouldn't be showing tattoos. Even if they're on their way into the office and they have a uniform on, that uniform better be tucked in. They're at the gas station, whatever. Their fans always have to be cleaned. We just run a high standard. When a customer asks us, mow the lawn, we'll mow the lawn, take out the trash, who cares? Like, we will literally bend over backwards for our clients. Now, some clients take advantage of us, but you're not gonna tell them no. There's certain things that we have challenges with as well. But the one thing I will tell everybody that's listening is always be willing to change with the times. I see a lot of guys falling to the wayside right now because they're not changing with the times.
Yeah. Agreed. Keith, if somebody wants to reach out to you, where do they do that? How do they get in touch with you?
You can go through like either one of my websites. I have a couple. HGHomeGuardian.com is probably the easiest way, or you can do LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn, and I got a Instagram. I'm pretty visible on Instagram. You can look up either Keith Flores, or my moniker is HVAC God.
Got it. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will be right back. Imagine you had total freedom. You didn't have to worry about money. You didn't have to be a slave to your business. The words "I can't" are eliminated from your vocabulary. What if you could do what you want to do whenever you want to do it? A financially fit business could give you that freedom. How? By knowing what your financial statements are telling you and taking action based on what they say. You can do this in less than 10 minutes a month at an investment of less than taking your family out to dinner once a month. And if your financial statements are a mess, you can get help. Go to www.financiallyfit.business or click on the QR code below to get started today. We're back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I'm speaking with Keith Flores, who calls himself the HVAC god. So I probably should ask the question, why do you call yourself that, before we get into some more leadership lessons?
So it goes back to when I was about 19, 20 years old. Me and a old friend of mine, we were walking across the parking lot. He was a service technician. I was an installer. And back in the day, everybody had God Jesus on the back of their cars and stuff. And he had God Jesus on the back of his license, or on the back of his service van. And I literally jokingly just said, if you're Jesus, I'm God. And probably like 6 months later, and then again, this is when I was 19, maybe 20. 6 months later, he bought me the license plate, because back in the day, you used to be able to buy license plates and gift them to people. And so
Interesting.
I literally have had that since I was, let's say, 20 years old, you know. And then probably 2014, 2015, I trademarked it, copyrighted it, and then built a business around it for doing M&A and some consulting and that type stuff. But yeah, it's not that I think I'm better than everybody else. It was just like a joke, and a lot of people go, "Oh, he thinks he's got." No, it literally is a joke for me. But if you love it or hate it, it's just something that I found funny,
Oh.
and I just rant with it.
Well, it also is recognizable because nobody.
Oh, very,
eh,
very recognizable. It's pretty much on everything I have now, even our company vehicles, it says really small on the side, powered by HVAC God. And a
yeah.
lot of people will ask us, like, who's he think he is, or what I don't understand. And I'm like, take it as a joke. It was just something that came up years and years ago.
Yeah. And then we're doing it that way. All right. So let's get
Yeah.
back into another leadership lesson. We've already talked about the one about making sure you have a partnership agreement and things like that. You also mentioned before the break, learning about profit and loss statements and balance sheets. So how, from your first business that probably could have generated more revenue to you, how did you learn it?
I literally ended up going to work for a massive company. We were doing a couple $100 million a year, and I was running one of the largest locations at the time. And I just dove into it head first, and worked side by side with an accountant, and just really, like, we would do these daily calls, 3 times a day, and I had to know my numbers. And so throughout that process, I learned quite a bit. And then I just started literally asking questions. You always hear, people don't want to speak up in a meeting. They don't want to ask the question. Always ask. If you're the smartest, everybody's heard this. If you're the smartest person in the room, you shouldn't be in that room anymore. That was always been me, and still is to this day. I literally live by that. I have another company so I own 3 companies. One of the companies is a hardware and software company that we're getting ready to launch, Home Guardian. And at Home Guardian, I'm way out of my comfort zone. So far out, it's like unbelievable. And a lot of people have said, well, what made you do it? How'd you know it was a good time, and so forth? There's never a good time to go for it. You just gotta, don't dip your toes in. And this is even for construction businesses. If you go buy one truck and you kind of play with it, you still have another job, which I see a lot of guys do, and they're doing side jobs and all this other, you'll never make it. If you go all in, there's no turn back. And that's where I really push people to, if they want to get into the trades and start a company, I push really hard for all my technicians to understand how to build a business. And that's understanding what the overhead is, understanding what it costs to do business, especially in the state of California.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Yeah.
and having all your every base covered. I've learned a lot of lessons throughout especially where I'm at right now. I've learned a lot of lessons of, different laws and so forth in different states, but you have to have an infrastructure that can support you, and know where you want to be in 5 years, and start building and reverse engineer how that's going to look like now. Like a lot of guys won't spend the money to, get a style guide or a brand book or something like that. That should be one of your priorities, I feel. Because it's going to make or break your company. You want to make a very visible company so people recognize you immediately. Our logos are very simple, very simple. It's just a HG on the side of our vans, and it says, specializing in heating and air conditioning. And it just says home service business. Has a phone number, a social media link, and our license. That's it. We don't put, we do service tune-ups, and we work on refrigerators, we work on reams and trains and all these other things. Once you start seeing that, people get lost in all the gibberish on the sides of the vans and stuff, because those are your billboards, right?
Uh-huh.
So I just try and replicate that over and over and over. It's one of those things, you got to get out of your comfort zone. And I know I'm kind of spitting out a lot at you right now, but you got to get out of your comfort zone, be willing to take a chance. And there's never the right time. There's never the right answer. You just gotta surround yourself. Leland Smith, I don't know if you know who that is.
Yep.
He's a friend of mine. We have lunch probably once a month. And one of his biggest things, he always said, I always look for bigger and better circles. And then I jump in and find out what they were doing. How do I get there? And look what they did. I mean, they sold for what, $2.5 billion. A 22-year-old company, probably 25 by now. But, I've always surrounded myself with, better and better people. Alan Crick is another good friend of mine, Ken Goodrich. These guys are, monster players in the game. And I look towards the guys that have done it for years and years and years and started off, in the field and worked their way up. I don't like all the new gurus. I don't like all the new, I'm not big on that whole rah-rah thing. I'd rather have guys that know what a contractor is and then also know the business side as well, if that makes sense. I want people that, if I'm going to listen to them, I want to know that they know what they're talking about.
Exactly. And they've done it. So
They've done it. You got a lot of quick guys that all of a sudden blew these big companies up and all of a sudden had a great exit and then find out where that exit is at now, a year later, 2 years later. Most of them are out of business or sold 3 or 4 times for $1 or $2, and that just tells you they didn't build an infrastructure. What they did was they created FOMO to a private equity group that wanted a footprint in that area. So they sold very quickly. The PE, shame on them. They should have done their due diligence. And that's kind of why I say I don't look at the big rah-rah guys.
yeah, and I don't either. But anyway, so Keith, give us your website address again, please.
Oh, sorry. We'll go to hghomeguardian.com.
Very good. Keith, thanks so much for being with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. Choose one thing you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money, too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.